All right, we're live. Olivier, the Canadian Gangster Aubin. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Well, yeah, it's
Aubin-Mercier?
pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Right.
Actually, Olivier, when you said Olivier, it's really, really good. Normally, people that speak English have a lot of trouble with my first name.
Right.
But
Well,
yeah, that's my name.
I like the nickname, the Canadian Gangster. There's not too many. It doesn't
Ah,
seem like there's too many gangsters up in Canada these days that are willing
uh,
to stand up for things, you know. So it's good to know there's still a couple.
yeah. Well, this nickname, it's Joe Rogan actually who gave it to me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like a couple of years ago. I was fighting on the card with Habib and Conor. When Conor McGregor, he threw like a fucking chair at the window of the bus or something like this,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody on like Twitter, MMA Twitter was like going crazy, and Conor McGregor was going crazy. The Diaz brother were going crazy. Habib was going crazy, and me, I was getting a massage when that happened. And when I got out of the massage room, um, all the Russian that came for the fight stormed the hotel. So I was in the hotel. I was like, "What the fuck is happening here? Like, how come there's like 1,000 Russian like ready to fight?" And like some guy told me like, yeah, like Conor McGregor threw I think it was a boogie at the bus,
I
and then
remember, yeah.
and then the Russian are waiting for him to kick his ass. So then I did like a post on Twitter saying that the Russian have Habib as a gangster, Conor McGregor, the Ireland have Conor McGregor, the US have the Diaz brother, and I said, don't worry, fam, Canadian have me, but like it's I mean it's all a fucking joke, and I receive a lot of hate for that, telling me that I'm not a real gangster. I was like, no shit, man.
That's the internet, man. That's the internet.
Yeah.
So Rogan picked it up and he repeated it. Is that what happened?
Well, I won the fight on that weekend, uh, like maybe in a minute, and I did like a little, like I like to do, fucking fuck around, and I said like, yeah, that's how the gangster win, and thing like this after the fight, the post interview, and they said, yeah, okay, the Canadian gangster, and then like I left, and the name like stayed with me, and that's
Nice.
how I changed my name. Before that, I was the Quebec kid, a little bit less intimidating.
A little bit less of a ring to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. So for some people that may not be, familiar with you or your story, do you want to just give us like a little bit of the background? Obviously, well, actually, it'd be interesting to know how you got into martial arts in the first place, and then the UFC career, now the PFL career. You're on a 2-fight win streak. Things that seem to be going well. Sponsored by Bull Bitcoin, so you're in the
Mhm.
Bitcoin family now. So I know that's probably a long story, but why don't you hit me with the Coles Notes version?
So yeah, I started judo when I was, I think, 13. Did judo for maybe until 20 years old. I was going to school and then doing judo every day. I don't know how you call it in English. It's in French. It's sport études. So it's really like you study, you do the sport that you like every day. So I was training every day for judo, and I became actually a national champion. Uh, and then I saw Georges Saint-Pierre. Uh, I don't know why I said Georges Saint-Pierre like I'm an English person, but I saw Georges Saint-Pierre and fight on the TV, and I was like, holy shit, that's really, really cool. And that's why I like to do, I like how free they were. In judo, you have a lot of rule, which is, it's okay. But for myself, I was like, no, I want to explore a new thing. I want to do all the martial art. And for some people that follow judo, they're going to know the name. But I was talking every day to Nicolas Gill. He did, I think, a bronze medal in the Olympics like 10 years ago, maybe more than that. And I was talking MMA with him every day, and we were really interested because it was a new sport, And he told me at some point, like, "Oh, I give you 1 year or two, and you're gonna change sport." And he was right. 1 year after that, I changed sport. I did MMA. I tried MMA, and then after that, I did, I think, 4 amateur fight, which I won. I did 4 pro fight, and after 4 pro fight, I was lucky enough to do the Ultimate Fighter, the TV show. So I did a TV show. It was Canada against Australia, and so I participate on that TV show. Went to the final against my fellow Canadian, Chad Laprise. Chad Laprise kicked my ass in the final, but then I was in the UFC. So I think I did like maybe 11 or 12 fight in the UFC, and maybe 2 years ago, before COVID, I signed with the PFL, which is a new organization. And this organization, what is special, it's like a tournament. So it's a little bit like hockey. There's the regular season, and then there's the tournament. So you have to do some points in the regular season, and then if you do enough points, you can do the tournament. So it's really special, and the winner, it's really like old school. The winner of the tournament win $1 million, so $1 million. Which is pretty good when you think that in the UFC there's not a lot of fighter who's gonna make $1 million a year.
No.
So that's it. So I went to the PFL, and the other thing that's different is in the UFC you cannot have sponsors. So you're not allowed to have any sponsors, which is it was a big controversy, but then it's just fade out. But now in PFL we are allowed to have sponsors. So that's why I am right now, and that's why I was allowed to have Bull Bitcoin as a sponsor. This year I didn't do the tournament. So normally when you do the tournament, you have 2 fights, and the people in the category that have the most points can do the tournament. I think they take 4 people. The thing is, I got hurt the first fight, and I didn't do the first fight. So I just had 1 fight to try to do the tournament. So I won the second fight, but unfortunately they took 1 point from me since I didn't fight the first time, and I was not able to do the tournament. But I was able to be an alternate in the last event. So this year I fought twice.
But so what does that mean now that you've got 2 wins, but you're still not in the tournament? Is that how it works?
Yeah. So right now the next event with PFL, it's the final. So it's already at the final right now. So I fought I think 3 weeks ago, and it was the beginning of the tournament. So if someone got hurt during that week or didn't make weight, they would have called me to take like his place to do the tournament. Everybody made weight. Nobody got hurt, so I just fought normally. So now I have to wait for next tournament to fight again, and let's hope I don't get hurt this time.
Right. So you don't have a fight scheduled for next year yet?
No, I'm probably in vacation for 6 months right now.
Well, you can heal up and train, and I guess it's good from that perspective, but obviously not getting a paycheck, which is not the best. But take me back to the very first fight, right? So, you train in judo, you're dedicated to that, it's part of your lifestyle, and you do well in the competition circuit. You get inspired by these conversations and by GSP to get into MMA. One of the things that I find so interesting about fighting is it's so honest, right? Two people go into a cage, and you bring everything you have. You bring your skill, your technique, your psychology, your ability to remain calm, your toughness, your heart. It's just a crucible for all those things. And someone wins and someone loses. I mean, it's just pure realness, and that's what I love. And I think, at least from my perspective, one of the major themes of my life is just truth and clarity. Like that's one of the things that I seek, I seek out. And fighting, I think, is a representation of that, not dissimilar to Bitcoin. And I'm just wondering for you, like, what was it like the first time stepping in that environment and probably experiencing yourself in a different way than you ever have before, that like kind of complete freedom where you just go in there and you let it go. What was that like?
Like you said, like a lot of people call it the ultimate end game. So there's nothing after the a fight. Is the end game, but yeah, like you said, when I switched from judo, it was really special to fight amateur. So amateur, there's still a little bit more rule, so it's not all everything, but still to, like, when you do judo, you can fight, but you don't know if you can really fight. Like, am I gonna fight in the street just to test my judo? No, I won't. Like, I won't. And I think you gotta, like, I mean, when I was younger, I had some opportunity to do it, but I was kind of like stressed, kind of maybe scared a little bit, to fight in the street. But when you start doing MMA and you have all this this liberty, and then you really know, I think there's something, like you said, truth about that, and there's something about your how you see yourself. I was always someone that didn't really like look for any trouble, didn't look for if I saw something wrong happening in front of me, I was not necessarily the guy that's gonna say, hey, don't do that. But when I fought for the first time after that, I was really sure about myself. I got elevated from that fight. Like, it really it changed me. So I think it was maybe an evolution with the sport. When I was in judo too, I was a little bit a bully, in school. At school, I was a little bit of a bully, and like, when I started MMA, I was like, man, I can't believe I was this fucking guy. And like, I understood that it was because I had some self how do you say that, like
insecurity, maybe?
Insecurity. It was exactly the word I was looking for. So I was a little bit insecure, but with MMA, everything changed. I think it's the freedom, maybe, of it. Maybe it's the like you said, the truth. You finally know the truth about fighting, about the end game, and I think that's how it changed me. I think it changed me to be a better person, like to know to train MMA and to fight.
Yeah, I've spent a decent amount of time in Muay Thai gyms, and never had a fight, but lots of sparring. And I talked to, lots of professional fighters that have passed through the gym to train and stuff. And, one of the things there's two things. One is that what you were just describing, like, there's a humility. I mean, training that hard and getting your ass kicked and realizing, because I think a lot of guys, especially, even though you're insecure, and maybe because of the insecurity, you kind of walk around with this idea in the back of your head, like, well, if I needed to, like, I could take care of myself. And the reality is no, like, that's pretty much an illusion. If you come up against someone who's stronger, faster, tougher, more technical, whatever, you're going to get your ass kicked. And I feel like, in the gym, you just get humbled a lot, right? In order to learn jiu-jitsu, in order to learn striking, you need to get beat up a lot. You need to get choked a lot. You need to get hit a lot. And that instills a sense of humility that grounds you in, like, a more truthful approximation of who you are and where you're at. And then that's the basis on which you build who you are, right? And you improve. And like, it's such an amazing... I have so much respect for fighters that continue to go into the gym day after day, because a lot of people kind of forget when they watch those fights on the TV, like, the learning process for that fighter was likely an emotional roller coaster, right? Because when you get your ass handed to you in the gym, you're not like, oh, I can't wait to go back to that. You're like, fuck, man, like, that sucked, you know, and then you go home and you sit on the couch and everything is sore and you're injured for a while or whatever. And you're like, am I really going to go back to that? And fighters are the ones that say, yeah, I'm going to go back to that because I think there's something to be gained there. You know, like fighting is, in my opinion, it's almost like a spiritual journey as well as like a physical and a competitive and a career journey. And I'd love to get your, you know, kind of opinion on that notion.
Yeah, I think what you say, it's true, and like you said, the sport is so unforgiving. You know, you can train 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, do a fight, lose in 30 seconds because you did a little mistake. You know, it's
Mm.
so unforgiving. My last fight, I was doing well. I was better than the guy. I was winning on the feet. I was winning everywhere, and then he punched me one time, and he dropped me. The fight could have been done there.
Yeah.
Like I was able to recuperate and take him down, and finally I won decision. But like I was basically better than the guy everywhere. But that one punch could have changed everything. So I think it's the fact too that you understand that even though you train for a long time, like a little thing can change everything.
Yeah.
And I think that can like you can see that in life too. You know, it's kind of the same thing. And sometimes you don't even do a mistake. It's not because you did a mistake that you get punched. I mean, our capacity have limits. You know, like everybody
Mm.
gonna get punched, even if you're the best in the world. You're gonna get punched. Miwator get punched. You know, and but in MMA, what is different? It's one punch can change everything. In boxing, is the same thing, but still you're gonna have 10 seconds to get up. So
Mm.
the lucky part is a little bit less.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's something you're gonna understand um, really early. And like you said, when you go for the first time at the gym, if you don't have any experience with martial art, you're gonna get your ass kicked. You can be big, you can be strong, you can be the most athletic guy since you're young. Who cares? Jiu-Jitsu don't care. Muay Thai don't
Yeah.
care. You're gonna get like your ass kicked. And personally, like I was lucky because I did freaking 10 years of judo before starting jiu-jitsu and everything. So I had the edge. But like I saw those guys that came in the gym, and you see the evolution. You know how they change. They come in the gym. Yeah, I fought 10 time in the bar, 10 KO. Okay, like I think like how long? Like 2 years to go to the UFC. It's like, man, do one training and then maybe we can talk. You know, and then everything is the same thing. Like they think it's really fast um, that I don't know, maybe God give them like this power that they can knock out everybody and they can get to the UFC easily. But now then they see that they're getting their ass kicked by everybody, every girls, every little man, everybody, you know, in the gym. And then they understand, oh, okay, it's not just muscle, you know, it's the
Yeah.
brain too. So I think it changed a lot of people to do MMA. And like you said, um, a lot of people like don't understand um, like how dangerous it is to fight in the street. And like for me, that's why I'm always scared. Like I think I had one fight since I did MMA on the street, and I was freaking scared. And the guy was like not really scary, but I was still scared. And I can't believe those people like don't understand how weak human beings are. Like
Mm.
we're really really weak. We are
Yeah.
not like a. Um, so it always amazed me.
Yeah, man.
Honestly.
You know, I avoid street fighting at all costs. Like, you know, I've been traveling for a decade and I've been in South America and Asia and pretty much
Mhm.
everywhere. and, you know, you're out with a big group of people and there's drinking and you go to the bar district and all that stuff. And there's always stuff that pops off. And my immediate reaction, like when something starts happening, you know, like people crowd around, I just go the opposite direction every time because I'm not interested. Like I want to see people like yourself fight. I want to see professionals who are well conditioned and trained in technique. And I want to see the chess match. I don't want to see two drunken idiots winging punches and one fall down and hit their head on the curb and really bad shit happen. Right. I mean, it's so dangerous. Like you said, people don't realize how fragile we really are, you know? So in a sanctioned environment, it's even dangerous, but at least it's more controlled. So, you know, I totally agree with that, you know, with why you would fear something like, you know, because people might think it's like a contradictory, like, well, this guy's a professional fighter and he's afraid of fighting in the street, but it's like, it's totally different domains, you know? And that's one of the reasons why when I go to a place, the first thing I seek out is a gym, like an MMA or Muay Thai or whatever gym, is because I love, like, you always get a few assholes in a gym. Maybe they're like the top dog, or maybe they're new or whatever. But by and large, like, you go to the gym and people are great. They're humble, they're helpful, they're friendly because they've been humbled so many times to get to where they're at in the pecking order, right? Or with their skills. You know, like I met it's Douglas Lima fights for Bellator, right? Douglas and Diego, the brothers, right? Anyways, they stopped by the gym one day with their crew, you know, Brazilian crew, and I think members of their family. The loveliest people you could ever meet, you know, just extremely friendly. And that's most often the case. And I think that's because you get humbled so many times and you get grounded in the truth of what you're about. Because so often this arrogance and this ego behavior is based on what you said earlier, is how the insecurity you feel causes you to create a false perception of who you are. And then that's what you express out into the world. And that, you know, that's all the bullshit behavior that we often see. And fighters, I just think, are grounded in a more truthful notion of who they are. And then, you know, the last thing, which I'd love to get your take on, is one, you know, people, sometimes I'm sitting around with friends that aren't really, have never trained in that kind of stuff. And fighters will go through a long, like 3-round, 5-round war down to a decision. And then they'll hug each other afterwards and they'll be very affectionate and they'll be smiling and that kind of stuff. And people won't, like, they're like, man, they just fought for 25 minutes. What the hell are they doing? And, you know, like, to me, it seems like you get to know someone. It's like that quote from that guy that protects the Oracle in the Matrix, right? You never really know someone until you fight them. And you know, when you go through 25 minutes or 15 minutes, you know how hard you're working. You know how much your heart is pumping. You know how much pain you're having to push through. You know how much, like, emotional regulation you're having to do to stay calm and focused in the moment. And that other person that you're standing across from that's meeting you in the same way is doing the exact same thing. And so I feel like that generates a tremendous amount of respect after the fact, because you're like, wow, motherfucker, like, I know what you just went through and you know what I just went through. And that's a bonding experience in many ways, as counterintuitive as it might seem. So has that been the case for you? Because I know you've never been stopped, right? So you've gone to a lot of decisions in your career. Has that been the case for you after you finish off with a fight? Like, do you have that unique relationship with people that you fought?
Yeah, but I mean, there's always the exception. I never had an opponent that was unnice after a fight. But like you said, it's true. I mean, if I was not fighting these guys, he would probably be one of my best friends, and I would be ready to fight for him. You know, so we are really like alike, and we love the same thing. We try to do the same thing to each other. And I mean, like you said, it's hard to explain, but there's something deep in fighting someone else. I know the guy have a lot to lose. I know he know that I have a lot to lose. If I lose, I miss half of my paycheck. If he lose, the same thing. You're gonna have family that look at the fight and gonna be sad if you lose. Same thing for me. You may have a daughter. I have a daughter, you know, a girlfriend, anything. We know how much we we put on the line every fight, and I think that like he deserved my respect because of that, you know.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, that's the part that maybe gets missed, that people that don't follow things or don't train, is like, again, the emotional development that occurs as a result of being a fighter. Not just because of that, like you said, and like one punch that you don't see ends your night and half the paycheck and all the things you just mentioned. But I also like when you start striking, at least for me, and especially for headshots in particular, like it's not so much the pain that is the thing that you have to manage. It's the frustration. At least, you know, like that's always the thing for me. It's like when you get hit by like let's say a headshot that you don't see coming, like maybe you're a bit discombobulated for a second, but it's like my emotional response is always the frustration. And I'm so again, I admire fighters so much that like they have to go into the fire to get off themselves, right? To execute their game. And they have to like have no reaction to how they get tagged or hit as a result of doing that. Like, and it's immediate emotional regulation. And I think you do that enough and you become a calmer, a far more like emotionally stable individual, I guess, you know, which again is why I think fighters are, you know, kind of good people to hang around.
Yeah, I think it's true, and like you said, like for you, it's anger that you feel when you get punched. But some people is gonna be they're gonna be more scared. But like any emotion you have when you get punched, you're gonna get better at this, you know.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's interesting what you just said.
What you know, how do you see your career right now? You're 32, right?
I think so.
So
Yeah, I'm
like,
32.
I mean, you could make the case that that's prime, but it would be like on the back end of prime. Like, how are you seeing your fight career, and what are your objectives, all that kind of stuff?
I would say 1 or 2 more years for me, and I think I'm gonna be done. Well, you were talking about the head blow, and for sure, the aftermatch is a little bit scary for me. I don't get punched a lot, but still, I don't want to have too much aftermatch, because we have to understand that martial artists, what they do is they put their health on the line to entertain. You know, it's like just a normal artist. Let's say a normal artist just paint a really nice thing. Took him maybe, I don't know, a month, and then they kind of burn it after doing it. You know, it's so you sacrifice your time just for the entertainment of others. And let's face it, we don't get paid too much.
Right.
So we I think we do it for because of passion, and we do it for sure because of money, and we do it for the how do you say that, statue, like how people see you.
Yeah, notoriety, fame kind
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I think that's uh, the three main thing why we do it. But like for me, kind of start liking my anonymity, and I have a daughter, so I want to to have more time with her. So I would say 2 more years. My goal would be for sure to win the tournament, uh, and just retire. But if I don't retire after that, I can take another job. I mean, I think I'm gonna find something else that I really like. That would be easy for me.
Are you like, do you have other interests currently, or is it something you're going to figure out after your fight career?
Not really, and I'm not the kind of guy that try to. Everybody during all my life told me you need a plan E and a plan B.
Right, right.
But me, it's like completely the opposite. Like if you do that, you're gonna put half after energy on one and half on the other one, which is not good. You know, you won't be great at anything. For sure, there's an exception. Like I won't say that there's no exception for. So for me right now, what I'm doing it's training a lot, studying a lot for MMA. But when I have like a little bit of time, I study a little bit of Bitcoin. I study. I play a little bit video game with my daughter. You know, I find something else that I can just go away from the fighting, because if you were too obsessed with fighting too, it's not great. It's not good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have a plan B right now, and I really don't know what's gonna happen in the next couple of years. You know, especially with everything's happening.
Well, fuck, man. Yeah. I mean, I think I agree with your position, right? Like you won't know how far you can take something unless you commit 100% to it, right? If you got one leg in and one leg out, or if you're working on a hedge or a safety net, then you might leave something on the table in the primary domain, you know? So I respect that approach. You brought up Bitcoin. What's the rabbit hole story for you? How did you first come across Bitcoin, get interested, you know, all that jazz?
Do you know the story?
No, I don't.
I think you're gonna love it. I don't know actually, but okay. The really first time I heard about it was my coach Firas Zahabi, who talked about Bitcoin at the gym. It was in 2017, just before the crash. So he didn't told me to buy Bitcoin. He actually physically forced me to buy Bitcoin because he had like an ATM in the at the gym. So anyway, he pushed me like, put your money. Okay, I put my money. I think I bought maybe $100 of Bitcoin at like, I don't know. I don't remember.
15,000 or something.
I think it was more than that. I think it was 17. But still, like at that point, I didn't understand Bitcoin at that point. I didn't understand the philosophy behind it. But in my mind, it was like the Uber of taxi, you know? Money was a taxi and the Bitcoin was the Uber. So I didn't really understand, but like in my mind, technology always win.
Right. So like the disruption of money, that's how you saw it.
Yeah, and I was not really thinking too much about it. Firas was a little bit like explaining to me how it was working. So I start buying some little by little, and then everything crashed. I was like, oh shit, that's possible? What? Like really surprised. I didn't do my homework, you know. So but for some reason, I think it's truly not because I was smart. It's I think I was just lazy. But I didn't sell it. I kept it, didn't sell it, and I actually continued to buy a little bit Bitcoin like every month, you know. And even though at that point I was not really understanding it, there's some friend who was kind of explaining to me how it was working a little bit. So I knew a little bit more at that point. And it was in 20, just when COVID started, maybe 2020. I think it was 2020. There are some guys who has Firas some training partner. So the guy is like, oh, I need training partners for jiu-jitsu because I cannot train where I am right now. So Firas said, oh, like how many guys do you need? It's like, oh, maybe like 5 or 6 guys. I think I would need 5 or 6 guys. I can fly them with a private jet and everything.
This is some dude that just wants training partners?
Yeah. So he's like, oh, where are you? He's like, oh, Antigua. Yeah, you're Antigua. Okay.
Wow.
So
what a gangster. I like it.
What a gangster. You like him, eh? It
Well,
was
I don't
Roger
know who he
Ver.
is, but it sounds
It's
cool.
Roger Ver.
Oh, is it? Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus.
I'm so happy. Yes, you liked him.
I liked.
So yeah, Roger Ver is doing a lot of jiu-jitsu,
I
and
knew that. Yeah. Yeah.
and he was looking for some partner, and at that point I didn't know who Roger was. My friend was like, "Oh, it's pretty funny. We're gonna see Roger." My friend were more deep in the Bitcoin and in crypto, so we were like, "Yeah, it's gonna be fun to talk to him to see how he see Bitcoin." And so we fly there. We train with him, and like he explained to me all the story behind why he went to Bitcoin first. I think he got arrested, and then he left, and then he heard about Bitcoin, and then he said, "Oh shit, yeah!" And then he put all his money in Bitcoin. And I think it was the first time I really like touch a little bit and talk to a libertarian, maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting to me. So I got interested in Bitcoin because of that, because of Roger, and I started listening to the podcast of what is his name? God damn. What's the most popular podcast in Bitcoin?
In 2017, I mean,
Yeah.
it could have been Let's Talk Bitcoin. It could have been Peter McCormick, or it could have been Pomp. Some of those guys.
No, wait, what's the fuck is his name? I don't remember his name. Anyway, he received Sailor, he received like you actually, but he received a lot of guy, and I think it was he received Breedlove at some point, and he Breedlove, is that how you say his name? And Breedlove explained Bitcoin to him, and like I'm kind of a fucking like I'm an artist too, so I really like how Breedlove like said like, oh, it's like no, Sailor said it was a battery, but I like how Breedlove was explaining Bitcoin. So
Right.
I got deeper and deeper into how it worked, and the lucky thing is I had time to buy a little bit more before the bull run. And I think that's how I started with Bitcoin.
So I'm assuming you went down to Antigua to train with Roger,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, if that was 17, I got to imagine he would have been shilling Bcash instead of Bitcoin, or was he not on that axe yet?
No, it was 2020, so it was recently. I went to there.
Oh, right. COVID.
So yeah, no, of course. But to tell you the truth, when I was talking to him, he was not like all about Bitcoin Cash. He was more like more open-minded. So he was like, yeah, you know what? Like I I thought that was the way, and things happen, and but like for sure, like when we were in Antigua, he was really trying to push Bitcoin Cash to the people over there. And I mean. The internet is not great over there, so that was kind of a problem. But he was giving like some money to some people. But like I really found him like a nice guy to hang out, and he was pretty fun. And I didn't really feel any push or anything with Bitcoin Cash. Actually, at that point, I didn't really understand Bitcoin that much. I still don't, but less at that point. And it was interesting to see my friend have like kind of a debate with him, that they were more Bitcoin, I think Bitcoin Cash, and it was really, really interesting. And I think that's where, with those conversations, that's where I got interested in Bitcoin.
Right. How was his jiu-jitsu game?
It's pretty good. Yeah, he's strong. He's really, really strong. You have the like he He doesn't look like a strong guy, but he's pretty strong. Like for
I
sure.
knew. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, but you
I was
can go.
just gonna say I knew he'd been training for a while because like I'd seen him mention it several years ago and stuff like that. So I knew he was very into it.
Yeah, no, and like for sure, like I mean, I'm a pro fighters. My friend were like really high level jiu-jitsu guys, so he had some trouble with us, but uh, like he got me. He actually got me with a dart choke. I remember at some point, and it was like, you let me win. I was like, no, man, like I was going easy, and then you got me. I mean, but yeah, no, he's pretty good. It's like impressive, you know. Like I said,
Yeah.
he doesn't look like a strong guy, but he's really strong.
Yeah. Well, that's good to hear. I have to imagine at some point the market will the truth of the market will impress itself upon Roger's opinion on Bcash and Bitcoin. It's almost astounding it hasn't done so already, but there you go. Let's see what happens through the course of time. I do remember maybe it was in 17, 18, something like that, that Rory came out with a Bcash t-shirt on, like he had Bitcoin Cash logo on his t-shirt.
Was
To
it Bitcoin Cash or was it the other one?
No, it was Bitcoin Cash. I'm
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm a fan of Rory, obviously, and he's had a
Yeah.
great career, but I was like, oh no, what are you doing?
Did you throw your drink at the
Well, I wasn't in
at
the
the
stadium.
TV? What the fuck?
No, I mean, everyone has to figure it out for themselves, and it's not there's a lot of noise out there and it's not an easy thing to suss out. So, it takes time for some people.
Yeah. But I thought Rory had another sponsor from crypto too, but I don't remember which it was. I'm not
Well,
sure.
the UFC's new apparel deal, I think Crypto.com paid them 180 million for 10 years. Isn't that
Yeah,
crazy?
yeah. It's pretty great. It's pretty great that
I guess
the
how
fighters
much.
don't get it.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. How much do fighters get from like the Reebok and the Venom deals and the crypto, like the sponsorships?
Look. They said they would get 100%, but I think right now they did they saw how we got, and it's like not even close to that. I think it's for sure it's less than 50, but it's really not a lot. And it's crazy because some people were making more money with sponsors than with
Sure.
fighting. So yeah, it was like I said, it was a bit controversy when that happened. But money is money, I guess. Yeah.
You're in Montreal?
Yeah.
Right. So you've presumably met some of the Bitcoin bull guys, and they've talked to you about Bitcoin and hung out with them. How did that whole thing come together?
How did that come together? I think I asked it for a sponsor. I know I did a thread on Twitter about getting a QR code on my shirt, and was saying in the thread that in the future what would be great, it's to have a QR code so people can tip me and have the QR code sponsored. So there's more ways for me to make money. And I think they were interested in that idea, and that's how I got in contact with I think it was Guillaume that I talked to, a great guy, and that's it. We met like on a rooftop. We hang out for maybe 3-4 hours. We didn't talk about the sponsor, and then at the end they were like, "Yeah, we are interested to sponsor you." So that how it went. And I think like in PFL you have two spots, one spot in front and the spot in the back. And my front spot right now, it's for my QR code. So they sponsor my QR code, and then I ask people like, oh, if anybody else want to sponsor my back spot. Like, you just text me and they said, oh, we're gonna take both of them. So Bull Bitcoin took both of my spot, and I think they were happy. And it's crazy how the community of Bitcoin is huge, because I'm not the biggest name in the on PFL. I mean, the night that I fought, Rory fought in the main event, and I was seeing the stats of the weigh-in, and I was the one with the most view, like like 4 times like the one that Rory has. I was like, holy shit, yeah, okay,
The power
the
of the
code,
cyber
yeah,
hornets.
yeah, exactly. Like, I was really impressed. It was interesting. But basically, that's how I got in contact with Bull Bitcoin. I was buying my Bitcoin with them for maybe 3 years.
Nice.
So I knew them, not personally, but I knew the company. So yeah, it was kind of nice to when they asked me to sponsor me. I talked a little bit with Francis, but not too much. But yeah, I met all the team in Montreal.
Yeah, I think you guys would get on pretty well. I loved it when I saw the collaboration, because like I said at the beginning, like I do see a lot of parallels between Bitcoin and fighting, if for no other reason that I just see them both as these like representations of deep truth, or like bare truth, right? There's no faking it in the cage, right? Like you yeah, you can't fake it. I mean, what you are is what you are, and you get to see what that is in comparison to another person. And Bitcoin propagates truth and is a base layer of truth on which we can build a more prosperous, more peaceful society and culture and civilization. And also, there seems to be this trend in Bitcoin where, because of that, and because of the contrast with like the super soft fiat culture that we have globally today, a lot of Bitcoiners, I think, are starting to realize the value in, or start exploring different ways that they can become more independent, right? And so that means more independent financially, energetically, with their home, their food, but also with their bodies, right? Because not being physically strong or capable is a vulnerability, and as a result, you have to, in society today, that creates a dependency, right? It creates a dependency on whatever, somebody else, police, state, government, whatever. But when you take more responsibility or I think, let's put it this way, I think Bitcoin causes a trend where people look at all different areas of their life and they want to take more responsibility for all of them, for their health, for their finances, for their future, for their family, for all that stuff. And being more physically capable, I think, is a part of that. And I wouldn't be surprised if we continue to see a trend where, we see a trend where Bitcoiners kind of are starting to focus on their health more. And maybe right now it's early days, so they're eating better, lots of steak, working out, lifting weights. But I could easily see that, kind of trickle or transfer into more Bitcoiners leaning towards the martial arts to kind of shore up that vulnerability that they feel that is their physical strength and capability, So I think for that reason, and Bull's just such a rad Bitcoin company, even amongst Bitcoin companies, that I thought, when I saw the collaboration, I thought, like, this is perfect, So I'm glad to hear it's going well.
And it's fun because, like, more and more fighters ask me about that too, about the QR code. So I think there's a like in TriStar where I train, most of the guy know what's up with Bitcoin.
I was gonna ask you that. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, those people know more than I do, and I think it's interesting to see, like, why people from jiu-jitsu, people from MMA, from Muay Thai like Bitcoin like this. I think it's I would like to know the explanation.
Why do you think?
I think it's I think there's a lot maybe to do with those part being a little bit like you have to learn a lot in those parts, it's like in hockey player, normally there's like a straight way to get a good to be a good hockey player, this technique, this technique. In jiu-jitsu, in MMA, the good technique change every freaking years, so you have to evolve, you have to always evolve, and you have to be really passionate about MMA and jiu-jitsu, and you have to learn a lot. And so I think people are ready to learn new things from other stuff too. So let's say from finance, there was this technique, the heel hook in jiu-jitsu. If you do that, maybe 7 years ago, people would laugh at you, coaches would like scream at you, everybody would tell you it's basically shit, but then one coach, John Danaher, like make it that not only that the technique was great, he showed that to their athlete, but their athlete destroy everybody in jiu-jitsu. So when people like change the mind of everybody, and I think it's interesting to see how the two can compare themselves with Bitcoin. I think it's kind of the same thing. I think people in jiu-jitsu and MMA are ready to learn new things, the new maybe the underdog, like maybe that's gonna beat like the fiat, so they learn about that a little bit. And for sure, I think in MMA and in jiu-jitsu, it's part that we don't make a lot of money, so people are ready to just live with the bare minimum, but put their money somewhere that maybe when they're gonna stop doing jiu-jitsu, they're gonna have more. I think that could be another explanation. Or maybe we are just crazy. I don't know.
There's probably a little bit of that too. I've actually never thought about it, but another one could be, what I find is that Bitcoin frees up a lot of my mental capacity, right? Because I don't have to worry about my future savings. I don't have to worry about my money inflating. I don't have to worry about managing a portfolio of stocks and doing all these valuations. I know that I siphon my money into Bitcoin and I have a high degree of confidence of what that's going to be in the future, right? In terms of how safe and secure it's going to be, the foundation that's going to provide me. And that means I can put all my attention and focus on something else. I don't got to worry about like financial insecurity. Of course, I still want to increase my financial insecurity, but I don't have to manage it as much as like in the fiat world, everything becomes financialized, right? So in order to just save money, you have to be further out on the risk spectrum than ever before. So you have to be in stocks and other investments if you want to save money, because if you're just holding cash, you're getting fucking destroyed, right? And so what I find is that like this kind of concept of Bitcoin Zen, where you dollar cost average, you accumulate slowly and you don't have to worry about it. You can focus your attention on what's more meaningful to you, right? So whether that's, and because MMA is such a crucible, because like you said, there's so many different techniques and the techniques are evolving so often that you can focus exclusively on that, and I think another parallel that's interesting you brought up with the heel hooks, like, I don't know, maybe like when I think heel hooks or maybe knee bars, but I think of Paul Harris and Ryan Hall, right? They both like really use that technique a lot and they popularized it, right? Or another example would be calf kicks over the last few years, right? Like,
yeah, true.
5-10 years ago, nobody using that technique. Now it's devastating, right? Like if it's there, it's going to be chewed up and people can win fights off of that technique. And it's almost because of that, because of the intensity of the circumstance, when something emerges that's more quote unquote truthful, right? Like, oh, that technique works in reality, it gets adopted very quickly and then it spreads, right? So martial arts, and I think there's a Bruce Lee quote here somewhere, but like, use what is useful, discard what is not, and add what's uniquely your own. And that's kind of like the whole process of the evolution of martial arts, right? It's a very like ferocious process of integrating new information that actually works. And again, I see a parallel in Bitcoin, like what all we're doing on Twitter all the time, all the cyber hornets, all the Bitcoin fanatics, we're all just throwing out ideas into the mix, right? Breedlove and Sailor and all the great writers and thinkers that there are. And we're like, something somehow resonates and sticks. It's like, wow, that angle or that perspective or that insight, that seems true. Let's keep that. Let's get rid of the other fluff. And then over time, we're like condensing further and further and further what this thing is, like the truth of this thing. We're getting a better understanding of it. And I see a parallel between that process happening in and around Bitcoin and in and around, you know, martial arts technique and fighting generally, right? So maybe that's a reason why, another reason why, you know, fighters gravitate towards Bitcoin. I think there's probably a shitload of reasons, to be honest, you know, because
Yeah, I think
the other
so.
thing is like fighters are already used to being somewhat unconventional, right? Like being a professional fighter is a fucking ridiculous career move that very few people make, right? But if you already accept the fact that you're the type of person that makes unconventional decisions and sees maybe the world a little bit differently, then the unconventional decision that is integrating and using Bitcoin as your savings technology, as your unit of account internally, is a smaller step perhaps, because you're already used to kind of going against the grain, you know?
Yeah, I think you're right, actually. But for sure, there's a
lot.
There's more. There's a lot more explanation.
Who's the biggest Bitcoin fanatic at TriStar? Is it Faraz?
No, it's mostly a jiu-jitsu guy. But like you wouldn't know the name. I would like to say GSP, but it's not.
Is GSP into Bitcoin? I think
No,
I've heard
it's
him
not.
talk about crypto before, but it's always
You
been
think so?
a bit cringe. I think so. But like, you know, kind of the cringy, like promoting the shitcoin casino stuff. I shouldn't say that because I'm not 100% sure, but
Yeah,
it might be the case. It might be the case.
I remember he posted a thing about Bitcoin ATM.
Oh, okay. Well, that wouldn't be so bad.
But other than that, I don't remember, to tell you the truth. But yeah, no, it's mostly a jiu-jitsu guy. Actually, some jiu-jitsu guy like invest in Bitcoin like really early, and they retired, and now they do jiu-jitsu for life, you know, for their life.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's pretty awesome, and they are my age, so
yeah,
that's
man.
good.
I mean, have a bunch of sats in cold storage and just do what the hell you want every day. It sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
What's going, man? So let's shift this a little bit to Canada, because I left in May. I'd been living abroad for 10 years, but I got stuck there during COVID and I left in May, and I have no intention of coming back. Because I look at the news there every day, and yeah, I know the world is crazy, but Canada is like up there with Australia at the top of the crazy list. What's it like for you there these days, and you know, what's going on?
Well, these days are not too bad, but like last winter it was kind of crazy. I was not allowed to train. I was not allowed to go out after 8. So it was just
You got
insane.
passports coming into Quebec,
Yeah,
like now, right?
like vaccine passport. They are there actually. If you want to go anywhere to eat food or to take
It's
a
implemented
coffee.
now.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. If you want to train, actually, you need a passport too. So yeah, that's crazy.
So let me ask you this, and without I don't want to violate your privacy. So let me just ask you this: for people that choose not to get the vaccine and therefore maybe don't have a passport, maybe fighters, maybe just normal people, what happens to those people? How do they get by?
They don't.
They just don't they don't train, they don't go to restaurants.
Oh, okay. So I guess if you're not vaccinated and you want to train, you cannot train with other people. So you have to do private training. But even that, I think it's not even legit. There are some restaurants who said that they won't do anything with the passport. I think that's gonna last a week or two. Or they're just gonna take out their table. But it's pretty hard to know if people are okay with the passport here in Quebec because of all the news that 80% of Quebecers are okay with the passport. So we really don't know who's okay with it, who's not okay. The What I see in my perspective is since I'm in sport and I'm a little bit with artists too. A lot of people in sport are against the passport, um, and a lot of artists are more for the passport. So that I think there's and like I mean I like to talk to both because I want to see like both side of it. I think the passport it's crazy in my mind. I think first I think it's gonna fail. I think it's gonna be a fucking waste of money. Um, but it can be potentially like be dangerous, you know. Yeah,
Of course.
that's what I think. I don't see the utility, and it's a little bit crazy to see all the media right now in Quebec, and it's scary, you know, because they already like point finger at all the unvaccinated for uh, the fourth wave, and I'm
Yeah.
like, how can you be so selfish, you know? How can you like take everything from them? Just let the only thing they can do right now is probably like fucking buy a rope, you know? And then even that, like you're gonna say it's their fault because there's a fourth wave. Like, how can you be like that selfish? You
Yeah,
know?
and that's stupid because, like, you know, the data or the logic does not support a vaccine passport. You know,
Mm.
it's just a completely asinine approach to what's happening here. You know, and it's interesting that you say kind of more fighters are for and artists are against, and like, no disrespect to the artists, I love art and all that kind of stuff, but like,
No, I do too.
you
I do too.
you but you could generally characterize let's say the personality of those two groups of people as one being kind of like more like strong and maybe a bit more, yeah, a bit stronger, for lack of a better term. The meme where
Mm.
it's like strong men create good times, weak
Yeah, yeah.
men bad times. And the artists are probably on the other end of that spectrum, right? They're not quite as hard as the fighter category. And I wonder how much that influences your
Mm-hmm.
philosophy or your approach to like thinking that you can be in control of your health and you're the one who's responsible and you're the one that should be making those decisions versus somebody else.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's interesting, but I still think it's interesting to see both points. And what frustrates me the most, I think, in Quebec, well, there's a lot of things that frustrate me right now, but it's a quote from Legault that said there should be no discussion, no debate about that
Yeah.
because it could raise the voice of conspiracy theorists. And I think it's such a dangerous quote. And yeah, I'm really not proud to be a Quebecer, to be a Canadian
Well,
right now.
yeah, I was going to say it's not just Quebec, man. I mean, I'm from Newfoundland originally, right? And
Okay.
they announced it yesterday, and it's all a clown show to me at this point. I mean, we live in a crazy world. 99% of people are completely out of their minds, and so I watch the news and I look at some Facebook posts just to see how crazy things have gotten, right? And like I'm in Facebook comments for like 1 minute, and I'm just like horrified, and I got to get out of there. But it's it's astounding to me that people don't see the danger in all of this, right? And that people don't have an appreciation for history. Like,
Mhm.
when in history has segregating populations been a good thing? When has it turned out well? When has it not led to divisiveness and conflict and tragedy? Fucking
Yeah.
never. That's when, and like the fact that, and Trudeau is the same, man. I mean, like, even as weak as the journalists in Canada are, and how little they pressure and push these politicians to actually answer questions, like every now and then they'll ask them, like, well, what about the people who just don't want the vaccine? They're not hesitant. They've just decided for their own health, for their own reasons, that they don't want it. And the only response that Trudeau can muster is like, my message is, it's time. It's time to get the vaccine, and you're putting the children in danger, and you're doing this.
Those people, he was
yeah,
saying.
exactly. Those people. I mean, how dangerous is that rhetoric? And now we went from 2 weeks of flatten the curve to, you can't get on a fucking airplane unless you do what we tell you to do. If you're
is it on that, or I'm not even sure.
I think that's what's coming. I think September, October is when they said that's going to be implemented. But like, imagine you're from Newfoundland, where I'm from. That means you got to get because it's commercial airlines, commercial boats, and trains, right? So you got to get a private boat to the mainland, then get a private car across the border to the U.S. to get an international flight. I mean, so it is. But absolutely
think about
bananas.
that too. Like right now, let's say they ban you from taking the plane. You're not allowed to take the road to go to the US. You're not allowed. You have to have a visa to pass to the US by road.
Like that? You mean that could happen?
No, it's right now. Like me, I can pass because I have a visa to fight for PFL. But if you don't
need a visa to be a tourist.
Yeah, by plane. But if you go by road, you need a green card or a visa.
Green card?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, you cannot pass by road. I'm sure. Like every time they're like, oh, like the reason why I know it's because last time when we went by road with my coaches, we needed like a big letter saying, okay, they are my coach. This is signed by PFL. That's why they can go with me.
And that's not just because you're working there.
No, it's really like you like, and that's a big thing too in Quebec. The US can come in Quebec by road, but Quebec cannot go by road. Let's say to Vermont. So that's the reason why, personally, what I did last fight is I left from Quebec, from Montreal, went to Vermont, have my visa so I can go in. Left from Vermont to Florida. So for me, I really like Vermont and I like the beer there. So I didn't go for like 2 years. So came back, bought some beer, stayed a little bit in Vermont, and then left. But yeah, you're not allowed to go to let's say Vermont by road.
I wonder, is that a Quebec thing or a Canada thing?
I don't know.
I never heard that before. But the punchline is, like, of course, it's possible that policy could be implemented, right? Like if you don't have the vax pass, then you can't drive across the border, and then you're completely a prisoner of your country if you don't do what you're told to do. And I mean, I'm focused on Bitcoin because I feel that's the best way to resolve a lot of these issues that we're facing. But it's still disheartening to see the news and talk to people at home and have so few people understand the dangers in this course, like this road that is being pursued. So are you're for the time being, you're hunkering down in Quebec and Canada? No kind of impulse to relocate?
Oh, well, I have a daughter.
Right.
So it's a little bit complicated to do that. I'm separated.
Right.
But if I would have been gone for a long time. I would not live in Quebec right now. Yeah. So I don't know. It is what it is. I'm gonna stay here maybe when she get older, but right now it's not an option for me to move elsewhere. Unless like I find a crazy way to do it,
Yeah. Do you talk much about Bitcoin to your friends and family and that kind of thing? I mean, obviously at the gym, the boys seem like they're into it.
Yeah, my daughter is really she's really no, I'm not talking to my daughter about Bitcoin. It's funny because my dad Uh, you know, those people that say, but I'm gonna wait for the dip. I'm gonna wait for.
Right.
And my dad is a little bit like this guy,
I'm gonna wait the
Um,
dip down to 500,000 from a million.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, um, for maybe 2 years, I was like, yeah, maybe you should buy some, maybe just a little bit. And I was more um, trying to push him, like in the like maybe last 2 years. I was like, yeah, maybe now it's like at. I think it was maybe at 15. I was like, yeah, maybe I think now it's time. Like, no, but there was a crash, and I'm gonna wait.
Right.
And like you told me, he like Bitcoin and everything. He didn't, like a little bit like me before. He doesn't really understand everything, but I'm explaining to him, and he kind of like now know more about it. And um, but it's still the same thing. He's waiting for the crash to 20,000 right now.
Well, you never know,
So
but he
you
might be
never know.
waiting. He could be
Yeah,
waiting a long time.
but he may be the smart guy too.
Maybe you never know what's going to happen, but I don't know. 20 I think is pushing it. We could definitely see another leg down, but 20 might be pushing it.
Mm.
So we shall see.
And I have a question for you. Why do you think yesterday it went how it went?
I don't know. I can only speculate. I don't care too much about the short-term price movements. I think maybe there's two potentials. One is just that people were buying the hype and selling the news, right? So people were buying leading up to the El Salvador news, and then it dropped, and they sold their position because that hype had dissipated. Perhaps I tweeted out that like it seems like somebody is salty about the El Salvador news, so maybe there's some politically inspired whales that want to make El Salvador look bad and have the price tank on the first day so that there's all this negative press about how irresponsible El Salvador is being. But who the fuck knows? This is what Bitcoin does. It pumps up, it dumps down, and it slowly slogs forward in the direction up and to the right. And the best approach is not to try to time the market, is not to try to price predict, is just to use it as a savings account. And when you have excess capital that you don't need for 6 to 12 months or whatever year, however you approach it, then you put it in there for a better future, for a more secure, a greater sense of security about the future. And that's what I try to impress upon friends and family. And like you said, like some have gotten it and it's so great when they do, and others just can't. Like there's some sort of a block that they can't see it. But the quote that stings for everybody is you get Bitcoin at the price you deserve, right? And so if you bought in at $500, or if you buy in at 50 grand, or if you end up buying in at 500,000, that's justice, right? That's the price you deserve because it was there the whole time and you had the option the whole time, and for whatever reason it didn't happen. So the thing is I think a lot of this COVID stuff, and who knows what the next thing will be. Will it be climate lockdowns or restrictions of some kind or whatever? But I think people fail to realize that this is the response to this is probably less so about the event in itself and more so about the fact that we're at the beginning of the end, in my opinion, of the destruction of a global fiat currency system that's existed for the last 50 years. And so as a result of that degradation in the coordinating capacity of the money, another entity has to step in to try to keep things held together. And in an environment where we exist with massive centralized governments all over the world, those are the institutions that even people ask to step in. I mean, Canada is a perfect example of this. If there's ever any problem, Canadians look to the government to say, fix it. Canadians have very little faith in the ability of free markets to generate solutions, which is, in my opinion, insane, because the free market generates the best solutions. But I think we'll continue to see these sorts of authoritarian measures, because that primary mechanism that holds things together, which is the money, is falling apart now. And so, I say all that because I think what that means is that people are going to need Bitcoin in the not too distant future. And so that necessity is going to mean that they look at it more seriously, and they try to understand it better, and they ultimately end up adopting it. And the sooner you see what's really going on in the big picture, maybe the sooner you'll be inspired to do that. But so many people don't act until they have to, right? Like things are normal. And if things happen slowly enough, then people don't really pay attention. But again, like the last 18 months with COVID is a pretty great example. We started off with 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Now it's you can't travel unless you do what we tell you. I mean, that's a pretty big jump in just 18 months. But, a lot of people don't see it that way, and may not see it until this. Let's put it this way: the sooner you see it, the greater the benefit to you will be, in terms of people adopting Bitcoin for the reason that I've just outlined. And so I hope that more people do, because I think we have a better, freer world as a result of people owning Bitcoin and Bitcoin growing. But it's very early days. And, as much as it seems like Bitcoin's been around for a long time and the ecosystem is huge and there's more and more Bitcoiners all the time, it's so early, man. It's like we are in the 1%, literally, of people that have adopted Bitcoin. And in reality, it's probably even smaller, because like, I think that's roughly the number of people that own Bitcoin globally. But, that could be like owning $10 a Bitcoin. Like people who are actually using it as their savings account is a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage of the global population. And if it ends up ultimately being a huge percentage of the global population, like, 80, 90, 100%, well, then, this is still the first inning. But I think this decade is going to be very interesting. I think a lot of change will happen in this decade. Like, I think this decade will realize that we exist in a historical moment, because I've been talking about this a bit more on the podcast lately, but I think we grew up in an era, like our parents' era and our era, was relatively inactive, like geopolitically and in terms of change. Things were stable, things were good. And so we just kind of believe like, oh, the world just kind of stays the same. Sure, Netflix gets better and the iPhone gets better, but by and large, it's the same. But you look back through history and like, every 100 years or so, there's these big, massive changes, whether they be economic or political or cultural or religious or whatever. And I think people will wake up this decade to realize like, we're not in a post-historical era. Like history still happens, and we're probably entering into a period where a lot of change happens in a very little amount of time. And that's going to be very disruptive for some, but there's also going to be tremendous opportunity for others. And I think the Bitcoiners are probably the ones that see that and fall into the latter category. So it's going to be an interesting ride.
Yeah, I think you're right. Scary, but still interesting.
Scary, but exciting.
Yeah.
Well, Olivier, man, this has been a fun conversation. I mean, if you got anything else you want to add before we go, then by all means. But otherwise, where can people get at you to learn more about you, or to follow you, or to contribute to, to your sponsorship? I know Bull Bitcoin has thrown up a donation or a tip page. Tell everyone where they can go.
So they can go on my Twitter. It's Oli Aubin, hashtag Oli Aubin. So you can go there, and I think I pinned the link to the page that Bull Bitcoin did, which is really good because last time I just put like a QR code and people were allowed to send some tip if they liked my fight. But it was with the Bitcoin network. Now they using the Lightning or the Bitcoin. So it's really, really great what they did. So a big thank you to Bull Bitcoin. What can I add? I remember the name of the podcast. I was listening to it. Yeah, it's Preston.
Oh yeah, Preston Pish. Yeah, Preston's great. The Investors Podcast.
Yeah, no, I really liked it, and I think that's it. I think I won't try to say everything about my social media. I'm not really active these days, so
Yeah, well, I'm
I think
sure
just
people can find you through Twitter.
yeah, exactly. I have a long name, so it's I'm not I'm the only one.
Yeah. Well, man, I really appreciate the time, and you know, I hope things go well. I hope you get another fight soon, and that the training goes well. I can't wait to watch you compete again sometime soon, hopefully.
Yeah, thank you, John, for having me. And next time I see Roger Ver, I'm gonna say that you say hello, okay?
Sure, sure. Nothing wrong with hello. All right, brother. Take care.